Welcome back to the HR Perspective, the podcast where we discuss how workplaces really work. I'm Jean Marie.
I'm Jacobus.
And I'm Lizani.
Today, we'll start by discussing what organizational behavior is and why it matters within a company. According to Robinson Judge, organizational behavior is the study of how people behave in the workplace, individually, in teams, and within larger organizations. It's basically the psychology, sociology, and management of the workplace rolled into one. So, John, why do you think organizational behavior matters?
I think organizational behavior matters because it helps employees or managers understand and predict employee behavior. And I personally think it builds better workplace culture.
Lizani, how about you?
I think that it improves communication and teamwork and leads to higher job satisfaction and productivity.
I agree. Now, let's talk about the positives of OB. It encourages employee management, it helps in conflict resolution, and it improves leadership and decision making. But as always, there are some negatives to OB. Jacobus, care to share with us?
I think when you look at organizational behavior, there are a few negatives. And I think people can be unpredictable. No one is the same, no one thinks the same. I also think organizational behavior requires time, training, and resources to implement. And over-analysis of behavior can slow down action. It can kind of be like the paralysis of an analysis. It can also manipulate employees, or you can also manipulate employees and make them feel valued without actually improving their conditions.
That's a really good point, Jacobus. Lizani, would you care to give us a real world example?
Yes, of course. Netflix is famous for its no vacation policy and flexible decision making culture. Instead of micromanaging, they trust employees to act in the company's best interest. This OB approach boosts innovation and creativity, but also requires maturity and accountability.
Thank you, Lizani. Now, on to some interesting facts. Studies show companies with a strong understanding of OB have up to 21% higher profitability.
I mean, if you think about it, organizational behavior is basically therapy for the workplace. Except instead of like lying on a couch, you're sitting through another team meeting that could have been an email. Um, our next topic of discussion will be how motivation theories influence job attitudes and behavior. Key points in this is that motivational is the feel for job attitudes and behavior. It determines how hard, how long, and in what direction employees put in effort.
Now, let's talk about theories and their influences. First off, we have my personal favorite, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Employees need basics like pay and safety before they can start worrying about promotions or personal growth. Then we have Herzberg's two-factor theory. Motivators like recognition and achievement boost satisfaction, but hygiene factors like pay and good working conditions only prevent dissatisfaction. Then you have expectancy theory. People work harder if they believe that the amount of effort they give will lead into a good performance and that good performance will lead into a reward like a promotion. And then last but not least, we have equity theory. People compare themselves with colleagues, and unfairness kills that motivation. Now, Lizani, would you care to give us some positives?
Of course, it motivates employees that leads to higher performance and creativity. There is better team morale and reduced turnover and absenteeism.
John, care to give us the negatives?
Organizational behavior, which is not what we're talking about. Motivation theories has a few negatives. If you think about it, motivation differs across individuals. What motivates another person will not motivate the next one. So that could be very tricky for managers as they need to attend to each one's needs. The second negative could be over-reliance on money as a motivator can backfire. And the third negative, or at least another negative, could be if expectations aren't met, motivation drops quickly. So, Johnny, could you give us a real world example?
Of course, let's look at Google's motivation through autonomy. Google introduced a 20% time policy where employees could use a portion of their time on a passion project. This led to innovations like Gmail and Google Maps. It reflects expectancy theory. Effort leads to meaningful rewards, and Maslow's higher level needs, creativity and self actualization. Lizani, do you have an interesting fact for us?
I do. Google found that giving employees 20% free time for personal projects led to creation of Gmail and Google Maps.
Motivation theories are great, but let's be real. Free pizza on Fridays motivates people faster than Maslow ever could.
Now we'll be looking at the influences of perception on individual decision making and judgment within the workplace. Some key points is that perception is how people interpret information. At work, it affects judgment, decision making, and interactions. Johnny, on to you.
Thanks, Lizani. Now, let's talk about the influences. First off, we have selective perception. People see what they want to see. This could lead to managers only noticing high performers and ignoring the quiet contributors. Then we have stereotyping, which is the most common in the workplace. This leads to bias in hiring and promotions. Then, last of all, we have the halo effect. One good trait overshadows another person's weaknesses. For example, the person might be punctual, so they must be a great leader, and all other weaknesses are looked over. Jean, do you have some positives?
A few positives for influences on perception could be quick decisions, making through mental shortcuts. And also it helps leaders interpret complex workplace dynamics. If you look at the negatives as well, it can cause bias, unfair treatment, and poor decisions, and it can also be misperceptions that could lead to conflict and miscommunication. So, Johnny, could you give us a real world example?
Of course. We'll be looking at Starbucks and bias training. In 2018, Starbucks faced backlash when an employee's misperception and bias led to the wrongful arrest of two black customers. Starbucks responded by closing 8,000 stores for racial bias training. This shows how perceptions influence workplace decisions and the critical need for awareness. Lizani, do you have an interesting fact for us?
Yes. Research show hiring managers make decisions about candidates in the first 90 seconds of an interview, often based more on perception than reality.
I agree with you. Perception is reality. Unless you're asking IT for help, then your tiny problem is apparently a full system crash.
Now, on to our last point, the importance and effect of linking individuals in the workplace through person job fit and person organization fit. Let's start off with the definitions. Person job fit is how well someone's skills, abilities, and interests match their job. Person organization fit, on the other hand, is how well someone's values and personality align with the organization's culture. Lizani, would you mind telling us why this is important?
Yes, if there's a high fit, it will lead to higher satisfaction, performance, and retention. If it's a poor fit, it may lead to stress, turnover, and low morale.
Yeah, if you think about it, the positives of it could be that it improves teamwork and commitment, and employees are more likely to go above and beyond. Okay, Johnny, what do you think could be the negatives?
The negatives include that an overemphasis on fit can limit diversity and innovation in the workplace, and sometimes it can lead to culture cloning where everyone thinks the same. Not every job allows for perfect fit. Sometimes you just need to pay the bills. John, would you mind giving us a real world example?
Sure. A real world example could be Zappos culture fit hiring. Zappos, an online shoe retailer hires based on person organization fit. Job skills second. They even offer new hires $2,000 to quit if they feel they don't like the company culture.
Interesting fact is long-term culture fit is more valuable than short-term labor.
Finding the right person job fit is like dating. You might look great on paper, but after a few weeks together, you realize the job leaves dirty dishes in the sink. Now for our conclusion. So, OB is a toolbox for understanding and improving workplace life. But it's not magic. We have to use it for good, not manipulation.
I mean, motivation theories tells us people need more than just money, but also don't forget the money.
Perception reminds us that reality is filtered, so check your filters before making big calls.
And fit matters, but don't hire clones unless you want your office to feel like a weird sitcom rerun.
Basically, understand your people, meet their needs, and don't give them exposure instead of a raise. Remember, happy employees mean fewer HR nightmares.
And that's it for the HR perspectives. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye!
Bye.